Hello everyone, welcome to watch this video. This is our group project about the impact of RMB exchange rate fluctuations on imports between China and Southeast Asian countries along the Belt and Road Initiative. And for content, we divide it into 4 parts. Part 1 is the background, and Part 2 is the literature review, Part 3 is data analysis, Part 4 is finding. Part 1 is the background. The introduction of the Belt and Road Initiative from China is an abbreviation of Silk Road Economy Belt and 21st Century Maritime Silk Road. It's a strategy to seek common development. What's more, as close neighbor of the Belt and Road Initiative, Southeast Asia has conducted intensive cooperation with China in higher education, policy connectivity, and platform construction. Moreover, Southeast Asia is a rich natural resources. According to the resources, for mineral resources, petroleum and tin are the main minerals in Southeast Asia. For economic crops, Southeast Asia is the world's largest producer for tropical cash crops such as rubber, oil palm, coconut, and banana hemp. On the other hand, with the outbreak and the instability of the international economy, the RMB exchange rate has become unstable, which affects Chinese import to Southeast Asia. And next page is the statement and purpose. For problem statement, with economic globalization and the Belt and Road Initiative, China's import to Southeast Asia is increasing. On the other hand, due to the epidemic and the trade war between China and the US, the RMB exchange rate has not always been stable. For objectives, since the exchange rate of RMB is not stable in recent years, the purpose of our study is to explore the impact of RMB exchange rate on China's import from Southeast Asian countries.
Part 2. Literature Review. It's understood that under the integrated pricing method, if a country's exchange rate rises and its dominant currency appreciates, the price of similar products in that country in foreign market will rise and there will be no price competitive advantage, resulting in a relative decline in domestic product demand. This is the decrease in export, while the price of foreign products in the domestic market has fallen. This is conducive to a relative increase in sales or demand for foreign products, which is the increase in imports.
The first important point in the literature review is the researcher Xu in 2010 found that the appreciation of the RMB exchange rate was not conducive to China's import and export trade. The second important point is the research conclusion of Feng and Pei in 2014 and Huang in 2010 shows that the fluctuation of the RMB real effective exchange rate is not conducive to the import of China's final products. The third important point is the researcher Su and Chen in 2014 compared the changes in China's import trade before and after the second RMB exchange rate reform in 2005. And the research results showed that RMB exchange rate changes had little influence on import intensity. And next is the fourth important point is Li in 2015 believes that the fluctuation of the bilateral exchange rate affects the consumer's price level of the export destination and thus the export scale. Lu and Dai in 2005 set up one model to test the influence of RMB real exchange rate fluctuations on China's foreign trade, and found that from 1994 to 2003, China's Marshall nonlinear elastic condition was established and the RMB exchange rate fluctuation had a J-curve effect on the adjustment of the trade balance.
In limitation to that literature, Countries and organizations are now moving towards regional integration. Some trade agreements may have a greater impact on imports than currency exchange rates, such as the RCEP, the CPTPP, and the EPA. These agreements lower tariffs on imports and reduced trade barriers, which increase import. And here are some examples, such like scholars use the gravity model to explore the impact of the exchange rate on international trade, and the scholars explore the impact of changes in the Europe exchange rate on trade. The author explores the impact of RMB real exchange rate fluctuation on China's foreign trade, and the author explored the impact of the RMB real exchange rate fluctuation on China's foreign trade, and the author compares the changes in China's import trade before and after the second RMB exchange rate reform in 2005.
Thank you so much for my good members presentation. And then I'm going to continue with the part 3, the data analysis. So first, let me introduce our model. According to the analysis of the transmission mechanism of the exchange rate on import demand in the previous part, the classical model used by scholars to study this issue. The import demand is writing into the following formula, where the Y is the national income of the country, PN is the price of the import goods, and the PD is the price of the domestic goods, and the S is the exchange rate under the direct quotation method. Sent to the processing method of the most scholars, the price elastic of the import and export commodities is assumed to be infinity, and the export price of the same commodity is equal to the domestic price. That is the PD equal to PX and PN equal to the PX plus. To simplify the model, in order to get closer to the reality, the real exchange rate is adopted to investigate the impact of the exchange rate fluctuation on China's trade with the countries along the Belt and Road. The real exchange rate E can be written as the product of the exchange rate S, and the value of the price level P plus of the trade target country and the domestic price level P. That is the E equal to the S multiplied the P plus divided by the P. And then the paper also introduced the money supply N2 and established the following measurement model. Well, where the import represents the import amount the country trade at the time T, and represent the real exchange rate of the country trade at the time T, represent the national income of the country trade at the time T, and represent the monetary supply of the country trade at the time T. And then of our data, we select 5 Southeast Asian countries, the Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, the Singapore, and the Indonesia. The monthly data from the June 2010 to December 2021 was selected. For our unit root test and Hausman test, first the stationarity of the variable is tested. For panel data, LLC and IPS test statistics are used to test. The results are shown in the table, and all are first-order integrals. When we analyze our result according to the above inspection result, this paper chose the fixed effect panel model of the import models. The paper used the data from the 5 countries of 138 months, a total of the 641 observations. Then, let's move to the part 4, the finding. There are 3 main findings in our analysis. The first is that the exchange rate coefficient. The coefficient of the LAFX of the exchange rate level was statistically significant, and the exchange rate coefficient of the import is negative. This is consistent with the empirical result in the literature review because an increase in the real exchange rate against the dollar indicates a depreciation of domestic currencies against the dollar, while which will significantly dampen demand of the imports. And second is that the GDP coefficient. The import trade values of the income level are large and positive, and the statistical results are significant because the increase of the income level will lead to the increase of the demand for import good product. Therefore, the increase of the income level of the target country will significantly promote its import trade. The third is that the N2 coefficient. The coefficient of the money supply N2 is significantly positive, which indicates that when there is a money over issue in a country, the import demand of the residents will increase significantly, which is also consistent with the result in the literature review. For our methodology, we use the quantitative research method to analyze the impact of the exchange rate change on the China's import from the Southeast Asian country. The researcher obtained from the World Bank the import value of the China to C, these 5 Southeast Asian countries in the past 10 years. Our group also analyzed the change in the RMB exchange rate in the past 10 years. Simultaneously, then the researcher used the STATA to test our conjecture. In conclusion, the change of the exchange rate has a great influence on import. The fluctuation of the bilateral real exchange rate has a significant impact on China's import trade from the Belt and Road Initiative sample countries. And the appreciation of the RMB has significantly increased the imports. With the development of the economy globalization, the trade between the China and Southeast Asian countries will continue to increase. Maintaining the RMB exchange rate stable is very important for China's bilateral trade. And for our recommendation, as mentioned in the literature review, the signing of the free trade agreements might have more impact on imports than the exchange rate. Moreover, more studies can combine exchange rate and trade agreements to analyze the impact to China's imports, with the RCEP combining into the effect in this year. China can continue to increase the imports from the other country by taking the advantage of the stable exchange rate. So that's all of our presentation. Thank you.